Hey everybody, Psycho here again. Now today we are back with our 2021 DRZ 125 project. Last video we had some issues with bogging. It would run on the idle and it wouldn't rev up for us. We changed out the fuel. It made a small difference, but it still didn't really help the problem. So today we are going to jet the carburetor and we're going to try to get it running correctly. Stay tuned. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to say is I've been working at this bike a little bit off camera, so I kind of wanted to get a feel for what's going on here. The first thing I actually did was pull the plug, which is probably the first thing you should do anyways. And first thing I noticed is it didn't have the right plug in it. It's a D8 EA. The bike calls for a DR8. I don't think that would make too much of a difference. But another thing I noticed is one, it's full of soot. Very black. And another thing is, I don't know if you can see it, but it's wore right down. I don't know if that's the electrode or what it is, but it's definitely wore down. The plugs jump basically at that point. And as you can see, it is running super rich. So I did buy another plug. This bike factory is a DR8 EA. I have that in it now, but I am also going to upgrade to the Iridium, which is the DR8 EIX, and that's what I'm going to put in it. Just basically a first mod, peace of mind kind of deal. And it does work a little better with the new plug, but it still has the bog issue. I took the carburetor off, I put in the 20 Pilot, and it ran for crap on idle. It would run for a little bit and then it would just shut off, and it was just kind of like it was just flooding itself out at some point. So I put the factory one back in, the 17.5. It runs good on idle. Idle's no problem now. And I put a 110 main just to see what would happen, and it is even worse. And, you know, obviously, judging by the plug, it's a rich issue, so we need to correct that. Another thing I did was I pulled the carburetor out. I took the needle out. I wanted to see if you could actually adjust it, because maybe the kids took it and they put it in the wrong setting. But there's only one setting on those. There's one notch. You just clip it in and then that's it. So it's not the needle position. So what we're going to do today, since I put new fuel in it, we're going to put that new plug in. I'm actually going to go back to the 102.5 jet. And if that doesn't fix it, I'm going to try putting this jet in. This is a 100, and go a little smaller and lean it out, because even if like we get in a little more power for more fuel on the top end, I would rather have the throttle response. There's nothing worse than when you go around a corner and you pin it and it just goes bleh. So that to me is more important than just top end horsepower. So let's get the carburetor out and we'll go from there. So I got the carburetor pulled back off. Now there's a few things that I'm going to change. Like I said, we're going to change the main jet. We're going to leave the pilot alone because, like I say, it runs fine on idle. And I'm also going to change the position of the fuel screw. Now, factory states it's 2 1/4 turns out. I believe mine was 2 1/2. And I opened it up to 3 to allow more fuel in. And that's what a lot of the forums said. So I'm going to actually dial that back. I'm probably going to put it to, well, between 2 and 2 1/2 probably. I might even go just to 2 1/4 and go back to factory spec. But first, make sure there's no dirt. Everything looks good. And we're going to pull that jet out. Like I say, this is a 110, so this was way too big. I just kind of did it for curiosity's sake, see what would happen. And of course, it made a really rich condition. Now, or should we go to the 100? I wonder. Let's go to the 100. Let's just experiment here. So this would, between the 110 and this, there's going to be a big difference, but we'll just see. We can always swap it out later. And here's the fuel screw. So hopefully, here, I'll get close for you guys. So what we have is your main, your pilot, and then that's your fuel screw. And we're going to adjust that now. And I need a tiny... So that's a half turn, 1 turn, 1.5, 2, 2.5. There's your 3, and it's just starting to snug up, so it was exactly 3. So we're gonna go half, 1. Come here, 1.5, 2, and we're gonna go 2.25. That's factory. That's what we're gonna go at. And that should lean it out a little bit more. So now, with our 100, and then with that, maybe it might run better. I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. But it should work a hell of a lot better than what we had. And again, putting a new plug in, it's going to help too. Alright, so I haven't started it yet. Carburetor's back on. Like I said, we adjusted this fuel screw down to 2.25 turns, and we put the 100 jet in. So it should be a hell of a lot leaner. I didn't put the iridium plug in. I just want to try it with the other one. It should run. It should run hopefully better. I guess we're going to find out. So one thing, I gotta keep the choke up because the lever here is non-existent, and that sucks. That's something I definitely want to get fixed, but it's like 40 bucks to buy the parts from the States, and yeah, for a little piece of metal. As far as idle, it idle's great. It'll sit there and idle like this, no problem, but as soon as you try to rev it up, same issue again. I thought that was gonna, be a bit better. So I'm wondering if the valves are just like something's definitely like drastically off. Yeah. So the only thing I can think of is that the intake valve is off quite a bit. It's the only thing I can think of. It's just not opening up enough to get enough fuel and air in there to give it good compression or something or other. I have no idea. But something's definitely up. It shouldn't run like that. Like I say, it's definitely not the carburetor because we've gone rich, we've gone lean, and it's still the same problem. So, I guess let's take all this off and let's do the valves. Alright, so I've stripped the bike down, took the fenders, seat, gas tank off. Pretty simple process. I'm going to go over this pretty quickly. If you guys want me to do a different video on just doing valves or whatever, we can do that. But basically, you're going to pull this nut off here. You're going to pull this cover off, T55. It's a 14 nut or 15. And all we're going to do is spin it counterclockwise. And while we're doing that, pull off your covers, pull your plug out so there's no compression. And when you see the intake valve go down, then you know the next T that comes up is going to be your top dead center for compression. That's very important. And to confirm that it's top dead for compression and not exhaust, you'll be able to move the valves a little bit. So if you hear that intake one is very snug, so I'm not sure, that could be out of spec, but you can hear this one here. So that's how you're going to know that you are in the right top dead center. So for spec, and as far as I know, it's the same throughout all these bikes. And the intake, you're looking for a 003 to a 005. We're going to want to put it at a 04, or 004 rather. Exhaust is a little bit more, 005 to 007. So we're going to get our feeler gauges. Where is it? Right here. And this is the 5. So this is more on the top side. But I've tried the 3s as well, and the 3 doesn't fit in here. So you should be able to get the 3 in there, and it doesn't. So like I said, this is a 5, mind you, but it just doesn't go in. It's pretty snug. So I'm thinking that this one here is too tight. We're going to loosen it. I'm going to run it on a 4, and then hopefully that makes a bit of a difference for us. As far as the exhaust side, what is that supposed to be? 5 is the smallest, so now question is, can I get in here to do this and hold you guys there? All right, so where are we here? So the 5 goes in, and it's got some resistance. I can feel it's pretty much bang on for 5. You might get a 6 in there, but I think it'd be really, really tight. So I think even on the exhaust side, I mean, it's off by a tiny little bit. We may turn it out 1/8 of a turn and go from there, but I guess we're gonna see. So anyways, I'm gonna do that and we'll see what happens. Okay, so to adjust this, we're gonna run the 10 mil wrench, and I got the 4 here, and like I say, we can try to put that through, but it just doesn't want to go through, and that's where I want it to be. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna slack it off with this. We're gonna do this easy. You don't want to break nothing. And we definitely don't want to slip off like that. Okay, so now that's slack. We'll take our 4 back in here again. Okay, now the 4 goes in. So it was about a 1/4 turn that it did by itself there. And we have good resistance. I'm actually gonna just check it. We're gonna, the screwdriver's too big. We're gonna grab the smaller one here. And I kind of see where she goes. I'm just gonna tighten it a little bit. I mean, that's, so where it was about right there. So I mean, see, that's way too loose. So that's a 1/2 turn. So I'm pretty, I like it right about there. So it's basically a 1/4 turn. It is very little of it for adjustment, but we're gonna do it anyways. So next I'm gonna put it here, and we're gonna hold at the same time. And of course I can't really get much on there. Let's try it over here. I'm gonna say that this is very tight spot. It unfortunately turned it a little bit. That could be an issue. Let's see where number 4 gets us now. We might have to redo this. Yeah, so it's gone tight again. I can get it in there. Oh, maybe not. Now, originally I couldn't get a 3 in here, so in fact I can get a 4 in here, and it's got some resistance, but it's not, like I say, it goes in, it's where it should be, and it's in between specs, so I'm happy with that. Now, exhaust side is supposed to be, what did I say it was? it's between 5 and 7. So I got a 6. And 6 is what I want. And if 6 works, I'm not gonna mess with it all that much. Because if you don't need to, why bother? Alright, so I got the bike back together. We made a small adjustment on the intake side. Basically a quarter turn. It was below the 003 spec. So that definitely needed to be adjusted. The exhaust side was a bit tight as well. It was basically at 005. I loosened it up a tiny bit for 006. So small adjustment there, and that seems to be good now. However, our issue still exists. I took the bike out and let it warm up a little bit, and it still runs good on idle, but it still won't rev up. It rev up sometimes, but not always. So like I say, idle's great, and then it just does not want to rev up. So I'm not sure what to do now. And yeah, I know the gas is off. It wasn't off when I was running it. I really don't know what to do now. We've adjusted the valves. We checked the needle position. We jetted it up. We jetted it down. I cleaned out the carburetor, all the ports. Like, I'm not really sure where to go from here. We put a new plug in it. I've taken that plug out. It's still getting a little sooty. So, yeah, if anybody has any ideas, shoot me a message. I kind of really want to figure this out. It could be something super stupid, or I don't know. It just seems weird. And like I say, it only does it like when we're trying to like open it wide open from idle. Like if you give it a chance to rev up, you can pin it. And you can just fly through the gears then, and it works fine. So yeah, I'm not too sure. Anybody getting ideas? Let me know. Anyways, that does it for today's video. I hope everybody enjoyed. If you did, comment, like, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for viewing.